I love Fred and George. I love a lot of the Weasley children in general, actually. Bill's cool and collected, Charlie is dragon-obsessed and outgoing, even willing to sneak into Hogwarts just to get a dragon. Percy's pretentious but deep and has this great arc, and Ginny, as the youngest, has this tomboyish mix of all of her brother's influence. All of them have their unique styles but manage to be likable, and have their own interests and attitudes. Am I forgetting anyone? But Fred and George, oh god, honestly, they have some of the best scenes in the book. They express wit, likability, personal interest, and are generally just good people. I love the way they make Harry feel better in the Chamber of Secrets by sarcastically parading him around as the heir of Slytherin when everyone else is scared of him. I love the way that everyone stresses out about asking someone out for the Yule Ball, but when they remind Fred about it, he's just like, oh yeah, and casually just asks a girl out of the spot. I love how every time you see them, they're always doing something, whether it be a prank or an experiment. They're always active. Even when off screen, you can hear the explosions. And while they're not necessarily upstanding beacons of morality, they're there when it counts. The way they take on Umbridge, which by the way, way better in the book, they don't just chuck fireworks, they fuck up the whole school with creative shit, and they can't dispel any of it for months, with things like turning some of the hallways into swamps. This and the way they burst out of school early and go start a fucking prank magic store is just the perfect climax of their characters. It simultaneously goes in a direction you don't expect despite making perfect sense. Standard form for this character is to become like an adult delinquent, but in a world like this, it's such a cool and positive evolution of their character to be like, let's start a business. That and their exit is such a crazy thing to do, but if any character was going to break a school story formula that much, it's them. And that's really the biggest part. They have agency. They're proactive characters, and it's just one of the many reasons I say they're main character material. This is not to say I hate Harry, or I think he should have been replaced. I think you'd lose a lot without him, but Fred and George, come on, like a spin-off at least. Like why make the cursed child when you could make this? Like, generally Harry doesn't move the plot unless he's pressured with dangers, though it can be indirect. He does poke his nose into things occasionally and has some wit to him. He's definitely a far throw away from a generic, relatable main character, but Fred and George are like a whole different level. I don't think Harry Potter needed to be relatable anyway. Harry Potter was already relatable enough when I felt the need to ram my head into a brick wall to go to high school. Okay, why do I say Fred and George are main character material? Firstly, Fred and George prank-based existence fits perfectly within a magical setting, especially one that prides itself on creativity. I've talked before about this, but Harry Potter's biggest strength is its creativity. The world is filled with so much creative stuff that they fill posters with it. Lighters that steal light, nose-biting teacups, hand of glory. I actually don't remember what this is, and at this point I'm scared to ask. My point is that this kind of setting is perfect for two characters who have motivations to learn about the world and then as their skills progress, add to the world themselves, which is exactly why they do what they do. Throughout the story, they appear here and there and quickly go from pranksters with the magic of others to experimenters of their own to successful entrepreneurs who go out and create their own joke magic stuff. They're amazing, fully realized side characters, but I feel like they have so much more potential mileage to give because of this. If you had these guys as main characters, it would be Harry Potter on steroids. You'd have the perfect excuse to not only have your main characters proactively inject new things into the series, but experiment and explore and find new applications for things that already exist. You've already got things like the skeeving snack box that propagate illnesses in the user. There's no reason you can't do more of that. What about a way of massively spreading hair lice? Wait, no, Sorting Hat already exists. What were they thinking giving that to kids? Anyway, the creative stuff writes itself with these two. All you need is the obstacles and mysteries that typically make up a Harry Potter book. The mysteries are kind of their own thing, but working out why they should care about the mysteries or creating obstacles in their path, that's easy. I mean, you could get super crazy with it. Have them trick their parents and sneak into Hogwarts a year early out of pure curiosity or passion to make their own stuff. It makes sense why their parents would ban them from it. World of Harry Potter is weirdly dangerous, man. It'd be so easy to kill yourself with spells. Like, the staircases alone are a major OH&S, let alone the fact that Fred and George fucking shoved someone in a cabinet and he got stuck in the U-bend of a toilet and literally almost died. Has anyone noticed Harry Potter has a weird obsession with using danger as a method of transportation? Floating stairs, broken teleportation, setting yourself on fire, jumping into walls. Use this special wand on that white panel with the holes there and be transported to a whole new world. Anyway, from there, it just builds its own conflict as they try to avoid being caught. It'd be rough at first, but they'd eventually try to disguise themselves with the student body as you'd build the tension of consequences once they're found out. That way you can have the usual Harry Potter comforts in the meantime, like hanging out in the dorm rooms, going to classes, and eating delicious hot feasts with roast potato, steak, and pork chops marinated in Boiling hot candle wax. Who thought that was a good idea? They could start by lucking out and finding the Marauders map, but eventually lose it to a school bully who they swear to get back at the following year when they come back to school for real. That way they will have truly earned their map in their first year because they have to outwit someone who's actively using it. If you wanted to line it with a cannon, you can have part of the plan be to get Filch to catch them with it so that they can pluck it from the office as soon as he puts it there. You could also have them finally get to school to find that most of the knowledge on how to make magic is locked behind forbidden libraries for their safety, and in eventually accessing it and using that forbidden magic, they create something dangerous they can no longer control. Perhaps they end up really hurting someone and start to conflict with each other, but ultimately work through their guilt, and perhaps even solving a mystery too and helping other students as part of it. There's a lot of time to draw even like subtle differences between the two of them because of this. Perhaps they conflict more at the start, but the more they work together, the more in sync they become with each other as they start to become the twins you know in the main series. You can't get the same level of spectacle without changing the canon. You can't quite have Wizard Hitler coming back from the dead to attack the school, but given how mysterious and particularly dangerous the hidden facets of Hogwarts are, there's potential to at least be like physically threatened by the castle and the dangers inside and out, and even dangers they might create themselves with their magic and the trouble that puts them in with the school. There's amazing like buddy cop potential from these two. Most of the big spectacle climaxes involve Voldemort in some way, but there's no reason there couldn't just be a normal basilisk hidden away in the castle, or a defense against the dark arts teacher with bad intentions. Not saying that you should specifically do those, I'm just saying that you can get big climaxes without using Voldemort. And even if you pushed in bigger threats they can face off against, like Harry does, George and Fred have really good excuses to cleverly handle it in ways that hide their involvement as heroes so that it doesn't conflict with the main book series. I can absolutely see Fred and George saving the day only to go, let's not tell anyone, we don't want to set a good example for Ginny, no one wants her to become like Percy. You could also have plot lines that involve their family going bankrupt and they have to work out how they're going to make a money scheme at school, but then also finding a way to secretly give it to their family. You could have them get blackmailed by a prissy upperclassman to throw their Quidditch games to create conflict, and you could expand their relationship in general with other players on the team. If you want to take the plot to a different location, the Weasley family is big enough to find plenty of excuses to go to the Ministry of Magic with Arthur, or hang out with dragons with Charlie, or go to Gringotts with Bill. I don't know, there's tons of ideas. To be fair to Harry, he does fulfill a role as a gateway character. He knows nothing about the world, so that he has excuses to ask questions and thus teach the reader. And knowing that it might be preferable to start the story with the twins a bit further back, such as a couple of years before they go to Hogwarts, or perhaps even younger, because I believe there are specific mentions to like them using magic at like 5 years old. So maybe you'd have to like do quick scenes at like 4 years old or whatever. Since Fred and George had the curiosity to ask questions, all you need to say is that they were fairly oblivious to the world around them up until a single point, the eureka moment in their lives which sparked a genuine interest to learn magic. I would say that that would be the first time they saw magic used for humor. You can even start them off disliking magic and rejecting it and the rest of the world because Percy has made them think it has to be rigid and formal and boring. That means for any part of the wizarding world that they should have already known about, you can have them re-ask so that they can reevaluate what they might have glossed over before as it becomes this explosion of curiosity that naturally expands into troublemaking. Sure, anyone part of the wizarding world would know what diagonally is, but Fred and George are proactive enough characters that they dive headlong into it and learn through mistakes. Maybe that'd even be superior to exposition. I think you can only really do a spin-off series like this for a couple of years until Harry appears, and you start retreading the same ground or conflict with the reader, what the reader has like already seen. But you get at least like 3 books worth of stuff for 3 years if you include the sneaking into Hogwarts year. Altogether, there's lots of potential to really flesh out these characters and endear them to the audience, even more before you just fucking kill them. Jesus Christ, J.K. Rowling. What the fuck? Speaking of, here's a video on my problems with Harry Potter killing like half a dozen characters at the end. If you're one of my subscribers, it'll be out in a few days after this first one comes out, or maybe I've released it before first, I don't know. But yeah, I don't know, this was just a fun little dive into a weird idea. I mainly just wanted to talk about why I love these characters, but turning into a thought experiment makes it really interesting to click on, and I'm currently trying to keep my own writing dreams alive, so I need money. This is kind of just a half fan fiction, but if you want to see me write something more fleshed out, check out this video on how to make Voldemort more hateable. When I went to Hogwarts, you actually had to be brave to be a Gryffindor? I sympathize with the Sorting Hat, really. I mean, where was it supposed to put you? There's no house for mudbloods. He turns to Harry and mocks him, that this was the Hermione he heard so much about. Tells him that Muggle sympathizers are all the same, that they pretend that these are real witches and wizards. Humor them. Harry denies this and says she's the smartest in their year, tries to encourage her to do something. Voldemort laughs, and what Muggle wouldn't be the smartest? Our textbooks must read like fantasy to them. Stayed up all night memorizing our hard work, did you? Turning back to Hermione, Voldemort tells her that she's a thief, not a witch. Just because you stole our brushes doesn't make you an artist. He takes a step forward, raises a wand, and she jumps. Mudbloods can memorize all the magic theory they want, but you'll never steal the spirit to apply it. Or if you've seen that, check out my webcomic Airlock Bound. It's a public domain webcomic, so you can do whatever you want with it. I want to see stuff like spin-offs with Fred and George as main characters, so it only seems right to be willing to leave writers open to do what they want with my own stuff too. Thanks for watching. Anyone notice this thing is called the Snitch and it doesn't give up its secrets straight away?